The discussion around the censorship of scientists during COVID-19 has obviously grown into a huge discussion. And just recently, a Canadian MP named Derek Sloan held a press conference on Parliament Hill, actually it was yesterday, June 17th, to give platform to various scientists here in Canada who have had a difficult time expressing their medical opinions about what's going on. The conference was streamed live by cable public affairs channel, yet no one in mainstream media, not CBC News, not CTV News, or any other major publication in Canada, has covered what has gone on at this press conference. One of the primary doctors that was speaking at this conference was Dr. Byram Bridle, who's a viral immunologist at the University of Guelph and who did just a couple of weeks ago, had done a short media interview where he had said something in response to whether there's a possible link between heart inflammation in young people and the COVID-19 vaccine. And since then, he's been aggressively smeared. Here's his story on that.
2 weeks ago, I gave an interview. It was a 5-minute radio interview. The company that runs the radio show did nothing wrong. The host asked me one question, and she did absolutely nothing wrong. She was doing her job. The question she asked me was if I knew whether or not there could be a possible link between COVID-19 vaccines and cases of heart inflammation that have been reported around the world in young males. In this case, it was 12 young males in Israel. And I've been delving into the literature very deeply because I'm a vaccinologist. My entire research program is based on the development of novel vaccines. My publication record is based on publishing information about vaccines. So I have a lot of expertise in this area. And indeed, I have, along with a large number of collaborators, both within Canada and internationally, have developed some serious concerns about the current COVID-19 vaccines. And so I felt that I could express concern and that there might be a possible link between this heart inflammation that's occurring and these COVID-19 vaccines. After I did this interview, 5 minutes, again trying to present to a lay audience, it was like a nuclear bomb went off in my world and my life was thrown upside down. And I'm sure my life will never be the same again. So within 24 hours, there was a libelous website that was put up using my domain name. A fake Twitter account was developed to slander me. And I've been undergoing daily attacks, either through email, people attempting to call me, and definitely in the social media. And I never had a presence within the social media until recently when I now have a fake social media presence. This has been very hard on me and my family. For the first, I should also mention, I'm experiencing harassment, lots of harassment in the workplace. Now, with that said, I want to point out, I'm from the University of Guelph. The administration of my institution has made it very clear that they are very supportive of me. They honor and respect the basic tenet of academic freedom and freedom of speech. So for my institution, I really appreciate that. But there's colleagues of mine who have been harassing me, both in the social media and in the workplace.
It's pretty insane to hear the level of attack that he's undergone. But I mean, to be quite honest with you, this is not new. This has been going on a lot for many doctors and scientists around the world over the last 15 months when they say anything outside of the COVID narrative that the mainstream media and governments are peddling. And interestingly, you might ask the question, does Bridle have anything, to back up the claims that he made there? Of course he does. Let's have a listen.
And what happened in this interview? When I was asked if I'm concerned or if I saw potential for a link between heart inflammation and the COVID-19 vaccines, I said I did. And this is why. What we have learned, and we've learned this from a large body of scientific literature, we've also learned this from reports that were submitted by Pfizer themselves to regulatory agencies, one in particular to a regulatory agency in Japan. And what we have learned is, I'm very familiar with vaccines, and traditional vaccine technology would tell us that when you put a vaccine into the shoulder, and that's where we get vaccinated with the COVID-19 vaccines, traditional vaccine technology tells us the vaccine would stay on the shoulder. And then what would happen is cells from the immune system would come and pick up the spike protein. All these vaccines get our bodies to manufacture the spike protein, right? So cells of the immune system pick up that spike protein, take it to the local draining lymph node, and activate the immune system. That's why often when we get sick or we've been vaccinated, sometimes our lymph nodes swell because that's where our immune response is happening. And our B and T cells go throughout the body to look for the virus. Okay? So this was an assumption, and I accept that early on in the pandemic and when we were first rolling out these vaccines, we've had to largely work based on assumptions. But you know what? The scientific literature has exploded over the last 16 months, and we understand so much more. Okay, and so now we're looking at vaccinating children, and it's no longer okay to proceed based on assumptions. And so what we have found is that this assumption about the vaccine remaining in the shoulder does not apply to this novel vaccine technology. It's never been in people before. These messenger RNA vaccines get distributed throughout the whole body. What we have found, in fact, is that as little as 25% of the dose remains in the shoulder, and it traffics all over the body. The polyethylene glycol was put in this formulation. A lot of people don't realize these lipid nanoparticles, these little bubbles of fat that carry this little blueprint that helps our cells make the spike protein, those lipid nanoparticles were actually originally designed to disperse throughout the body. They were designed to be gene therapy vectors and also carry drug cargo, especially into the brain, where it could be used to treat things like Parkinson's disease and Alzheimer's disease and brain cancers. That polyethylene glycol, just so that you know, is designed to help facilitate that spread throughout the body. You get about 5-fold greater spread throughout the body with the polyethylene glycol there. Do you know why? Because when the polyethylene glycol is there, it actually helps the lipid nanoparticles bypass the very cells of our immune system that are supposed to pick up the antigen and take it to our lymph nodes. So arguably, by having that polyethylene glycol there, not only are we promoting spread throughout the body, but we may actually be dampening the very functionality of the vaccine that we want. Okay, and a lot of this is speculation, of course. But what we do know for sure, what is not speculation, is this vaccine spreads throughout the body. What we also know is that proper studies have not been conducted. Remarkably, this is based on a rat study, a study done in rats, and that's appropriate as a starting point, but that should not be the end point. This should have been done in at least 2 animal models. And remarkably, it hasn't been done in people. And it has not been done at all with the actual vaccine formulation that we are administering to our children. Remember, what I'm focusing on here are children and vaccinating healthy children. Mass vaccination of millions of healthy Canadian children demands that the level of safety associated with this, the assessed safety profile, has to be exceptionally high, right? We've had 13 Canadians under the age of 20 die in 16 months, with well over 2,500 dying from other causes, okay? So this is just to put it in perspective. So we really need to focus on the safety here. And then what I just want to point out is this science is backed up by many scientists and many physicians, including one of the inventors of messenger RNA vaccine technology, Dr. Robert Malone. Okay, so this is a genuine concern for children, and where this leads me to is by expressing this, my career may very well have been destroyed, and I don't understand that. It's incomprehensible to me.
It's wild. I mean, him saying it's incomprehensible to think that his career could be destroyed for simply performing science is the exact same stuff we've been trying to, raise awareness about for such a long period of time. I mean, here, fact checkers is who's shutting us down constantly as independent media. We've been bringing forth various important discussions like this for the last 12 years, and specifically over the last 6 years. Fact checkers have absolutely destroyed our online credibility for stories that turn out to be true just 6 months or a couple years later and become absolutely accepted in the mainstream. However, no apology is given. We don't get back the millions of dollars over the course of years of lost revenue. We don't get back our audience who we can no longer reach on social media. And this is why scientists who are now experiencing this here with COVID are seeing such concern, because it's becoming real for them as well, which is actually a really good thing, because we're starting to see just how big of a problem this overall censorship and this overall shutting down of conversation around important issues truly has become.
As Canadians, we have to ask ourselves, do you want your physicians and scientists, their voices suppressed? We're polarized right now. We're polarized in Canada. We have people on both sides. You have to understand, we're just as passionate. We feel that we are trying to look after the best interests. We're doing our cost-benefit analysis, for example, in my case with children. And I honestly feel that by proceeding with vaccination right now, without conducting the proper safety tests, we may do more harm than good. I'm passionate about that, but I'm respectful of those who hold the opposite opinion. I would ask for the same for myself and my colleagues.
And the reason why that's such an important question is because, yes, I mean, we have to be thinking about what the implications are of how much censorship is happening right now. And I'll tell you, what's challenging about this is the average Canadian, the average citizen, perhaps of the world in general, is typically not aware of how deep and how disturbing this level of censorship truly has become. What they're being told is simply that, the people that were shutting down, or the content that we're moving online is fake news, and it's verifiably so. It's coming from these unhinged, crazy people. And the reality of the situation, as Bridle brings forth, is there's so many more doctors, there's so many more scientists, and there's so many more politicians who are literally hiding and not coming out and talking about this stuff because they're afraid of losing their job. What does that mean? It means you, as the average citizen, is not being told the truth that comes based from evidence from experts. Instead, we are hearing a watered down version of the story that seems to be based on some unclear agenda that we're all trying to figure out, and that typically science is there to help try and figure out. And instead of that process going on, that's being shut down, and we're hearing only a small piece of the puzzle that is informing the decisions that people all around the world are making when it comes to COVID-19. And if all those statements from Bridle are not enough, probably one of the most touching pieces to this for me was listening to Dr. Welsh speak, as he actually gets emotional talking about the state of what's happening here.
The reason I and Dr. Bridle and Phillips are here today is because we want to reclaim what we love about science. In particular, I'm here to support Dr. Phillips and Bridle, who have worked hard to reveal what they see as the truth. Their thoughts on patient treatment and vaccination are well considered, backed with published data, and informed by government databases. For this, they have been publicly attacked, openly ridiculed. Their academic and personal livelihoods have been threatened. This behavior is unacceptable in Canada and it's antithetical to an open and enlightened society. It is time for all in Canada to engage in critical thinking, to question all aspects of public health response to COVID-19. We need deep engagement. We need thoughtful debate to turn this public health response around. This public health response hasn't kept up with the facts on the ground.
So again, we have to end on this. Listening to just these two guys, I mean, there's so many more out there, like literally thousands and thousands of people, just as kind-hearted, just as caring. And the question is, do they seem unhinged to you? Do they seem like they are anti-vaxxers to you? Do they seem like the caricature that is being portrayed of people that are questioning this narrative, that are just so dangerous to society? Does it honestly resonate in your heart that these people are like that? Right? And the challenge here is that most people are just completely unaware that, this press conference, these two gentlemen and the other gentleman that was presenting during this press conference, Canadians aren't going to find out that these people exist. And the reason why they're not is because mainstream media is not going to talk about it, because these individuals do not fit the caricature that has been made that says people who question this COVID-19 narrative are insane. And because these guys are obviously not insane, you're not going to hear about it.